I support buybacks, and I think that, look, we have 5 million assault weapons on the streets of America, and we have 5 million assault weapons on the streets of America. And assault weapons have been designed to kill a lot of human beings quickly. They are weapons of war, and there is no place for them on a civil society, on the streets of a civil society. And it's something I'm so passionate about and so looking forward to being president to address. We've got to deal with this.
How mandatory is your gun buyback program?
It's mandatory.
The question of gun control, that is a huge issue in the upcoming election. So now, in the recent debate between former President Donald Trump and Vice President Kamala Harris, Trump had accused Harris of wanting to compensate Americans' guns, take them away. Now, VP Harris, she quickly went on the defense and said that her and her running mate, Tim Walz, they are both gun owners, and the Harris-Walz White House has no interest in compensating guns. Now, history shows us Kamala Harris's stance on gun control, and it actually tells us quite a different story. So during her 2020 run for president, she was very strong on taking the American people's guns, even if it was through an executive order. Now, Joe Biden, he had quickly reminded her that that would be unconstitutional. So what did Kamala Harris have to say? Well, in her response, she gave the impression that she didn't care too much whether or not it was constitutional, and she even chuckled at the thought of it.
Harris, you have said that you would take executive action on guns within your first 100 days, including banning imports of AR-15 assault weapons.
That's right.
President Obama, after Sandy Hook, more than 23 executive actions, and yet here we all are today. In recent days, former Vice President Biden has said about executive orders, some really talented people are seeking the nomination. They said, I'm going to issue an executive order. Biden saying there's no constitutional authority to issue that executive order when they say I'm going to eliminate assault weapons, saying you can't do it by executive order any more than Trump can do things when he says he can do it by executive order. Does the vice president have a point there?
Some things you can, many things you can't.
Let's let the senator answer.
Well, I mean, I would just say, hey, Joe, instead of saying no, we can't, let's say yes, we can.
Let's be constitutional. We got a constitution.
Yes, we can.
For me to take Kamala Harris serious, opposed to facing the tough question and even backing down if her idea is unconstitutional, she went to an Obama campaign slogan, yes, we can. In my opinion, she was just trying to appease to the Obama base. And to be honest, it appeared that she was also even a bit embarrassed to learn that her plan, it just wouldn't work. I think that's one of the main reasons that her handlers, they try their best to keep her from in front of a camera. When confronted in an unscripted environment, Harris, she always freezes. And that's not a quality that we would want in a world leader. In her debate against Trump, she changed her position about compensating guns because it was unpopular with a portion of her base as well as with the undecided voters. So to win the campaign, she has now changed her tune. But keep in mind that she said clearly that she has not changed her values. So she can say anything at the moment now just to get elected. But believe me, if she were to win, it is her true values that she's going to quickly revert to. A few days ago, when she was asked a similar question on gun control in front of a panel of the National Association of Black Journalists, she tried her best to go around the question and just give one of her candid responses. Here's a clip from that interview.
Madam Vice President, I'm switching gears again.
Okay.
Quick question. I want to talk to you about gun control. So you've said you support an assault weapons ban and universal background checks, and we actually learned during the debate that you are a gun owner. Mm-hmm. But in cities like Philadelphia, handguns are responsible for most homicides and violent crime. The most recent FBI data shows handguns were involved in 59% of murders in our country. How will you address the issue of the use of handguns? Because a push for an assault weapons ban only addresses a significant but small part of the problem.
So, first of all, yes, I am a gun owner, and Tim Walz is a gun owner, and we're not trying to take anybody's guns away from them. But we do need an assault weapons ban. Assault weapons are designed to kill a lot of human beings quickly,
yes,
and have no place,
ban,
and
yes.
have no place, I'm gonna get to it.
Yes.
And have no place on the streets of a civil society. We need universal background checks, which, to your point about handguns, is about saying that it is just reasonable to want reasonable gun safety laws that say we should do background checks, that we ought to know. It's just reasonable. You might want to know before someone can buy a lethal weapon if they've been found by a court to be a danger to themselves or others. You might just want to know.
And respectfully, we do understand that.
But you're asking
Yes.
about...
I'm
you're
asking specifically about handguns, because many of those handguns aren't purchased in places.
Universal background checks apply to handguns.
I'm very happy to see the journalist giving Kamala Harris some pushback. So the thing is, the average crime that is perpetrated with a firearm is actually done with an illegal firearm. Personally, I'm not a gun advocate, but it is our constitutional right. In a perfect America, I would love it where no one actually had to have a gun. However, that's not the actual world that we live in. And the point is, the majority of most violent crimes, they're actually done with guns that are unregistered, guns that have been bought off of the streets, guns that are owned by criminals. And most of the gun violence that is done is actually done with handguns. So I'm extremely happy that Harris did face some pushback. Now, let's see if she actually answered the question that was asked.
Instances, those handguns aren't even bought lawfully. Yes.
Which is why I also have been very adamant for years. In fact, I myself protested at a gun show probably 10, 15 years ago about the gun show loophole and why we need to close that. Because what ends up happening is that gun shows at flea markets, gun dealers are not, under existing law in the past, required to register their sales. And so you are exactly right that a lot of homicides, for example, a good number of them, I don't have the statistic in front of my mind, are committed with illegally purchased guns. And that's why we need to address each entry point in the issue, including universal background checks, closing the gun show loophole, and what we need to do as a general matter to focus not only on reaction to crime, but prevention of crime. So you're raising a very important issue that has many facets, including what we need to do in terms of reasonable gun safety laws and what we need to do around crime prevention, what we need to do around crime deterrence. But listen, I have personally prosecuted homicide cases. I have held the hands of mothers who have come to me crying, who have said, I only want to talk to Kamala, because they knew when they sat down, I would treat them with the dignity and respect that they were entitled and due, about the loss of their child, often their son, to gun violence and the need to take it seriously. And we must take it seriously in every way, understanding it's not just about a soundbite. It's about a comprehensive approach that deals with the tragedy of, to your point, everyday gun violence in America. It's real. It has had a profound impact in terms of trauma that for the most part has gone undiagnosed and untreated, the trauma that exists in communities around the violence of losing their children, losing a brother, losing a father, an uncle. All of that must be addressed, and we have to have a holistic response to it.
Are there things we haven't thought about yet? Because every time we bring up this issue of gun violence, universal background checks comes up and a ban on assault weapons. Are there other solutions that you're also thinking about that will get at this issue?
Absolutely. For example, part of what we did with, so we, as vice president and with the president, we were able to pass the first meaningful gun safety legislation in 30 years. And part of what that involved was millions and millions of dollars to put more mental health counselors in public schools, right? Because we know that there is an aspect of this that is about treating the trauma and dealing with it at its source before it ends up manifesting itself in a problem.
I'm going to cut that off just for a brief moment. As you can see, Kamala Harris, she's really stuck right now. She has absolutely no answer. She has absolutely no solution. She's rambling off. She don't know what to say. She's going into, we have to treat the trauma. We're talking about prevention. She's talking about getting the guns off the street, not what happens after the violence has occurred, but what do you do so that this particular violence won't occur? And Kamala Harris, she's dancing around this question because she actually don't have answer. This is not part of the script. She was not ready for this question because this is not part of her regular campaign stump.
There is the work that we need to do that is about putting resources into communities around violence prevention. I've been a big advocate of that for years, which includes what we need to do around putting resources into community-based intervention that is not just requiring on the good people in the community to volunteer to do the intervention, but actually paying people to do it because it's a full-time job.
I'm going to stop one more time. Now, for me, I'm a huge advocate of the nuclear family. I believe that most of the problems in our community, most of them can be solved and they can be stopped right there in the home. When a home has a biological mother and a biological father, when they have a nuclear family intact in place, that child is less likely to go out and commit violent crimes. This is according to statistics. This is not my personal opinion or anything of the nature. So that child is less likely to go out and commit violent crimes, less likely to end up in prison. One of the things that Kamala Harris and Tim Walz and the Democrats, one of the things that we have noticed that they are totally against, that is the nuclear family. They have never spoke on the nuclear family. I would rather they take a look at the statistics of what happens when a child grows up in a broken home and try to address the root of what's causing a lot of the crimes in the streets, a lot of the violence in the streets, opposed to just throwing more money out at a solution that has not worked in the past and that will not work in the future.
It's about understanding what we need to do to, again, understand that, to your point, we have to have a holistic response to this issue and prioritize it instead of reacting to the tragedy that, sadly, they are too predictable. Let's all agree, enough of that. There are very few solutions that we haven't thought of. We need to put the resources into them.
As you can see, Vice President Harris, she went into her usual word salad that she often delivers when she is under pressure. She was never able to give a clear, definitive answer to a simple question. I think it would be very safe to say that Harris would clearly stand on her value when it comes to the compensation of your guns. It is clear that she does not have a different position on this issue. If so, she would not have went on an endless rant that none of us was able to figure out. My takeaways are as follows. Number one, believe Kamala for who she really is. She said it clearly that her values are the same, and we know how strongly she feels about doing away with our Second Amendment rights. Number two, Kamala Harris will say whatever she has to just to get elected. This is scary because in a case like this, we don't know which Kamala that we would actually get in the event that she was to win. Now, my final takeaway is Kamala Harris, she lacks the confidence that is needed in a true leader. Every time that she feels uncomfortable, she either cackles or she just starts rambling a bunch of nothing. What are your views on Kamala Harris' stand on the Second Amendment? Do you think that she would take away people's guns if elected? Leave your answers in the comment below. If you enjoyed this video, then you have to watch this one on the inside of Trump's assassination attempt. You don't want to miss it. Kindly like, share, and subscribe. And until next time.